Superman 24, which was supposed to be before Wonder Woman. My eyes just skipped over it. Uh, so Brian Michael Bendis writing, of course, with Kevin Maguire and John Timms on the art. So this was kind of a middling issue for me.
I just want to interject here.
Yes.
Matt messaged me and said to insist that you gave the 2-page spread with Fate the appropriate amount of time. So make sure you do.
Okay, yes. I mean, the fact that I don't even remember what page he's talking about
I'm sure it was what it was.
is a good side. I'm sure I'll know when I get to it. So
yeah.
So I liked last issue quite a bit, but there was always a concern, at least for me, that I'm not as into the magic-y side of stuff. And interestingly, that's not really the problem with this issue. It does go a little bit like just bullshit magic exposition at certain points, but it's more just the entire thing's just this one kind of like stationary fight with this Xanadoth character that they introduced last issue. Because I like the build up last issue of the woman who was connected to it, and then this issue continues that where Bones at the DEO gives her a job, to trace down magic stuff, and we find out that she's kind of in there. She's like merged with this being, and she starts to sort of like also talk as well as the Xanadoth talking as well. So there's sort of like a dual dialogue at one point. There's a lot of 2-page spreads. There's a lot of like basically just bullshit magic mumbo jumbo talking about where Xanadoth comes from and how they can fight it and the weaknesses that Superman has and what they're going to do. There's a 2-page spread. I assume the one that Matt's talking about that kind of explains how Xanadoth came back and the connection to the agent. Where it sort of goes through all these different things. But that said, there's a couple of them. This book has a few 2-page
I didn't read it because there was too much on it. It was, 2 men in the Fate helmet on the left with a lot of
Oh no, not
that.
It. No, not that. That's later in the book. Basically, Fate says Superman has the strength, so if they use his magic with his strength, they can fight him. I'll be honest, like this issue is one of my least favorite types of comic book issues, in the sense that it's just a lot of mumbo jumbo that I struggle to remember any of by the time as soon as I finish reading it, I've forgotten most of what they said, and I don't really have good explanations as to what really happened in this book.
So this is a thrilling little piece you've got for us then today.
So I mean, yeah, Superman puts the helmet on at one point and has a little bit extra added to his costume, so he's Super Fate. I didn't care for it. I thought I rolled my eyes a little bit. And
I'm shocked.
I sort of thought this is a bit gimmicky and whatever. And there's many combinations of characters that you can do that are equally gimmicky that I might like and say is cool or funny or.
But
something.
You just hate magic.
I do hate magic. I don't think it's built up enough in this. It's just kind of like them talking back and forth while they're talking to Xanadoth and trying to figure out how to fight him. Because Xanadoth's whole thing is that he's the original, or he originally was a Lord of Chaos, and she was so bad that the Lords of Chaos and Order, for the one and only time, teamed up to banish this Xanadoth. And Xanadoth is slowly coming back using all these different magic items that are being collected to ultimately reappear into the world. But they actually win by the end. This is the thing. It's ended up only being a 2-issue little arc. Now, it is worth mentioning the agent who kind of comes back to being normal at the end. There is a cliffhanger at the end, a little tease of her in the hospital bed with the glowing eyes, implying that maybe Xanadoth's still in there. So it might actually be a thing that continues. Honestly, though, like so much of this is focused on the magic stuff that it feels more like a Justice League Dark issue that guest stars Superman than a Superman issue that happens to feature Fate and other Justice League Dark stuff. So, while I actually quite enjoyed last issue for the most part, this issue felt like it was just mostly in one place, and not even a place. It's like just. I mean, it starts off in the Tower of Fate, but after that, it's just a lot of colors in the background. I mean, nothing has any meaning. There's no like. I'm actually liking this even less the more I talk about it. I came out of this just been kind of middling on it, and then I'm like, I really don't like this issue.
Well, did Matt like it?
Let's find out, I suppose, shall we? Matt thought pretty solid issue. Yeah. Saying the Lord of I feel like some autocorrect has happened here because he said seeing Lord of China's show up after dealing with the Lords of Order. I assume that's meant to be chaos, and there was a typo.
I'm willing to take a reasonable guess that yes, chaos was what it was supposed to say. It is Matt and his damn fat thumbs
Yes.
that it can't type.
After dealing with the Lords of Order and Justly Dark, feels off. Yeah, so something about this doesn't line up with Justly Dark, the book.
We had a whole thing with
Yeah.
the Lords of Chaos and Order a couple of arcs ago.
But I like that Superman can go to Fate anytime he wants to let out without bothering him. Yeah, Fate, because if you remember, last issue was like Superman's therapy, which is what I liked about it. It was more human. It was more about what he's going through. This whole fight with this entity was just kind of whatever. Anyway, back to I forgot to even mention that because at the end, Fate's like, "Hey, you can come back and talk anytime you want to. You've got someone you can speak to." And Superman's like, "I'll see you tomorrow."
It's a bit presumptuous.
So it's a nice message that even the world's greatest hero needs self-care from time to time. Yeah, I like that last issue too.
It's kind of what Heroes in Crisis was supposed to be about, right?
Yeah, well, I liked it in the last issue. This issue didn't really focus on it. This issue was just a lot of conflict bullshit for the sake of a comic book, really.
I'll take your word for it.
Didn't feel earned. Maguire's art is fine, but it wasn't as crisp, and it could have been the inks and coloring in the other realm too. Yeah, I actually did feel the shift a little bit when it switched to Maguire in this, and I like Maguire's art, but it felt like it was too different from the Tim's stuff. The Tim stuff is such a weird split, and it felt like I was missing something towards the end. But overall, message was something I can get behind. Oh, and Super Fate was a nice surprise, albeit brief. So Matt is more positive than me, and I'm glad he sends me these things because obviously the things that I forget to mention he kind of prompts out of me. But it's see, he gave it a 7.5, so even he's not like super hot on it. He's
on a Matt scale that's fairly low.
Yeah. For me, I mean, I'll give it a 6. Like, it's not a terrible comic book. It's just
it's bizarre to me that you can give something a 6 where you said you kind of you actively dislike it by the end of that. You talked yourself into disliking it. I'd still give it a 6.
Well, the art's still mostly pretty good, and there's a nice sentiment to it. Okay, fine, 5.5. I'll go closer to that middle number, and the reason why is because so much of this issue just feels like we need to have some sort of fight with lots of art for it to be a comic book, and that's fine when you have that be a scene in a comic book, but that's like 90% of this comic is them, debating with Xanadoth, and Xanadoth being like, I'm going to take over the world, blah, blah, or the multiverse, or everything. Who cares? He's trying to take the helmet, and Superman's like grabbing the helmet and saying, "No, you can't take this." That sums up a lot of the issue. Wasn't for me. I'm sure some people might be more into it. They love the intricacies and every little bit of exposition about the magic and about the rules here. For me, it just felt like gobbledygook on gobbledygook, and yeah. So I mean, obviously, it's just a little 2-issue thing. Even though the Xanadoth character might pop back up because it's a tease at the end. Unless it's teasing it for something else, but it's just a 2-issue thing, and I actually like the first half of it a lot, which is a shame why I didn't like this one as much, but there you go. 5.5 then.